define what is considered religious?
Religious is what you act out.
For being here, I really appreciate it. So I was watching a few of your interviews in preparation for this, and I heard you speak about religion quite a bit. And if you look up what religion means in the Webster Dictionary, you get something like a system of faith centered on a supernatural being or beings or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I've heard you use religion to describe things like punk rockers, for example, that's a religious experience. So my first question would be, how do you define what is considered religious? And then sort of as a follow-up to that, if, say, Sam Harris...
Religious is what you act out.
What's that?
Religious is what you act out.
Anything you act out.
Everything you act out is predicated on your implicit axioms. And the system of implicit axioms that you hold as primary is your religious belief system. It doesn't matter whether you're an atheist or not. That's just surface noise.
So it has nothing to do with divinity or supernatural beings?
No.
Or it doesn't necessarily have to do with those?
No, it probably necessarily has to do with it too, but it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your voluntarily articulated statements about whether or not you believe in something like a transcendent deity. So, I mean, what you act out is much more what you are than what you say about yourself. And what the hell do you know about what you believe anyways? You're complicated, man.
It's a fair question.
Well, seriously, people are complicated. You know, like we're not transparent to ourselves at all. That's why we have to go to university and study psychology. It's like, you know, we're not exactly black boxes, but we are the most complicated things there are, right? And we can't even program our VCR clocks. So it's like, how the hell can we propose to understand ourselves? And, you know, I'm existentially oriented, which is to say that I think that what you hold to be true is best determined as a consequence of an analysis of your actions rather than as a consequence of an analysis of what you purport to believe. Now, in order to act, you can't act without a hierarchy of value, which I tortured the other poor questioner about. You can't act without a hierarchy of values because you can't act unless you think one thing is better than another. Because why would you act otherwise? So that means that you're embedded within a hierarchy of values, whether you know it or not, or maybe multiple fragmentary and competing hierarchies of value, which is all the worse for you, by the way, because it just makes you very confused. That hierarchy of values has an axiomatic, it's based on axioms. And the probability that you understand them is very low, because generally people don't understand their axioms. But that axiomatic system is essentially your religious system. And there's no way out of that as far as I can tell. And you can say, well, it isn't predicated on conscious belief in a transcendent deity. It's like, okay, have it your way. But, you know, most people in this room act out a Judeo-Christian ethic. And not only do they act it out, if they're treated in a manner that's not commensurate with that ethic, they get very, very, very annoyed.
Belief systems. And it's really interesting when you see how they're, like, you know, the Noah's Ark story is very similar to the Epic of Gilgamesh. And there's so many that you see, like, oh, they probably told this to someone else, and then these people moved and
of course, yes,
traveled on. And it's just amazing that that concept is alien to people. When I was a boy, I was raised Catholic, and I had an aunt who was Jewish, and my uncle married my aunt, and he had to convert to Judaism. And it was like a big deal in the family. Everybody would talk about it. And there was no anger. Everybody loved my aunt. She's a great lady. But it was just strange that he was converting to this other religion. I remember I was 5 years old when this was going on, and I was like, wait. What do you mean another religion?
Yes, quite.
I was like, what's going on?
Yes.
And they were like, oh, she's Jewish. I go, what does that mean? What do you mean she's Jewish?
Yes.
And they had to explain it to me.
Yes.
And I go, okay, but she believes in God. Like, yeah, that they believe in God. Okay, so why is it a different thing? Well, they believe Jesus was a different kind of a thing. They don't necessarily believe he was the guy that we think he was.
But if it had been Hindu, they'd have had to explain to you they believe in hundreds of gods.
Right, Vishnu and
yes.
Yeah, and then we'd have to go way back. Yeah. It's just, when you first hear that, I mean, that was probably put the first seeds of doubt in my head when I was a young boy. When I was like, wait, well, there's more than one? Like, I'll never forget that moment, because we were all sitting around the dinner table, and I was just a little kid. And I remember thinking, what do you mean there's another one?
I think that's a very powerful way of getting to children, is to just simply tell them that.
Yes.
Telling them nothing but facts. You're not indoctrinating them.
Right.
You're just telling them. There are lots of different religions, and Hindus believe in hundreds of gods, and Jews believe in one God, and Muslims believe in one God, and they don't believe in Jesus, and just lay out all the different religions. That would be a very good educational exercise.
Has there ever been a civilization that existed without a belief in a higher power?
I don't think there has, no. Of course, there are plenty of individuals who educate them to not believe in a higher power, but I think probably true to say that I mean, anthropologists might deny them, and there might be some tribe that doesn't, but I suspect they all do.
Well, there's been some tribes that worshipped animals, and particularly animals that they survived off of.
Yes, yeah. And river gods and thunder gods and moon gods and sun gods and fire gods and things.